Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really critical for any modern business. Keeping your data safe, keeping it trustworthy. It's getting complex out
It
there.
really is.
We've been digging into this book, Securing Your Data Supply Chain, and well, let's face it, data drives pretty much everything now.
That's exactly right. And the book makes a strong case that the old ways of thinking about data security just aren't cutting it anymore.
hmm
We've really moved beyond just protecting our own internal systems.
Absolutely. I mean, think about where your company's crucial data even comes from today. It's not just internal stuff.
No,
It's partners, cloud services, IoT devices. It's a whole network.
supply chain, essentially, a data
Right.
supply chain.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And this book does a great job illuminating some, frankly, quite scary threats emerging within that chain.
Yeah, the authors really zero in on a few key things challenging sort of traditional data governance,
hmm
like data poisoning,
Right.
where the data itself gets corrupted, often to mess with AI models. Then there are deepfakes.
Oh, yeah. Eroding trust.
Definitely. And also data suppression,
Mhm.
which is maybe less obvious but can really distort the picture.
It paints this scene where the very information we rely on daily can be, well, weaponized or manipulated. It's unsettling.
It is.
So, listener, our goal here today is to give you a solid, business-focused look at this book. We want to unpack its features, the benefits, maybe some drawbacks.
Sure, who it's really for.
Exactly, and who maybe it isn't for. Look at real-world applications, how it stacks up. The aim is for you to walk away with a clear sense of this book's value in today's data world.
Okay,
All right, let's get into the substance.
let's do it. So what does the book actually bring to the table? I think a major strength is how thoroughly it covers these newer threats.
hmm
Take data poisoning, for instance.
hmm
The book explains really clearly how feeding bad data into AI training can just wreck the decisions those models make, which is, a huge problem if your business relies on them.
They give some really potent examples, like imagine AI for a self-driving car getting fed bogus sensor data. The consequences, well, they're obvious.
Disastrous.
Or think about AI analyzing market trends, but it's trained on deliberately skewed data. You end up with completely flawed strategies.
Right. And the book even touches on this kind of counterintuitive idea.
Yeah.
Companies may be poisoning their own data before a public release.
To hinder competitors' AI, that's fascinating.
It is. But what all these examples show is just how vulnerable AI is to data manipulation. It forces businesses using AI to really prioritize where data comes from, its integrity, right from the start.
Which is a big shift from just focusing on access control and breaches the old way.
Exactly. A big shift.
Then you've got deepfakes. And this isn't just about, funny internet clips anymore. It's a serious business risk.
Definitely. The book explains the tech behind them, these GANs, generative adversarial networks. Basically, one part makes the fake, another tries to spot it.
Like a digital forger versus detective.
Kind of, yeah. And they constantly improve each other, making the fakes incredibly realistic. That's the danger.
And the applications are broad text, audio, video.
Right. And while some uses might seem harmless, the malicious potential is huge. The book mentions things like non-consensual pornography, impersonating celebrities.
Awful stuff.
But for businesses, the real worry is corporate deception. Remember that doctored video of the tech CEO?
I do, yeah. Stark example of the reputational, even financial damage possible.
And the book cites actual fraud cases using voice deepfakes to impersonate executives, authorize wire transfers.
Wow. Real money, real risk.
Absolutely. Then finally, there's data suppression. Maybe not as flashy, but just as important.
How does the book define that?
It makes a useful distinction. There's protocol-level suppression, think denial of service attacks, blocking connections, throttling bandwidth, basically disrupting the flow.
Okay, like hindering access to critical cloud services.
Exactly. And then there's data-level suppression. This is more about filtering, hiding, or manipulating the information itself, censoring keywords, messing with AI algorithms to hide results, using data signatures to block content.
Got it. And they have real-world examples.
They do. The Volkswagen emissions scandal is a classic case of deliberate data suppression, right?
Mm-hmm. Hiding the true emissions data.
Or greenwashing, where companies might selectively release environmental data. The book also mentions publication bias in pharmaceuticals, maybe withholding studies with negative results.
That's a serious issue.
It is. And it's not always malicious per se. Sometimes governments suppress data for privacy or security reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But the book's point is, whatever the motive, selectively hiding information impacts decisions and trust.
So the threats are laid out clearly, but the book doesn't just stop there, right? It ties this all back to data governance.
Exactly, that's a central theme. The argument is that traditional data governance often focused internally on quality. Compliance needs a major update for these external supply chain risks.
Because of digital transformation, the sheer volume of data.
The velocity, regulatory pressures like GDPR, all of it makes robust governance more critical than ever.
And they offer a definition.
Yeah, from the Data Governance Institute. It basically boils down to having clear rules and responsibilities for how information is handled. Who could do what, with what data, when, how.
So clear lines of responsibility. Who owns the data quality, security, usage rules?
Precisely. And the book spells out the business value. Mitigating these new risks, gaining an edge with trustworthy data, meeting compliance, enabling AI effectively, ensuring data quality overall. It's about building confidence.
Sounds essential. And does it offer practical advice on setting this up?
It does. It gives guidance on establishing a framework, defining the scope, the structure, roles like data stewards, governance councils, setting policies, standards. It's like a blueprint.
Okay, so governance is key. What else? Threat modeling.
Yes, that's another really valuable section. It explores different ways to proactively identify potential vulnerabilities, not just security, but privacy too.
Like Stride. I've heard of that one.
Right, Stride for security threats. But also Lindon, specifically for privacy threats, and DREAD for risk assessment, figuring out what to tackle first based on impact.
So different angles.
Exactly. And others too, like PASTA, which tries to align security with business goals. Attack trees, focusing on how an attacker might think. Octave for organizational risk. VAST for the attack surface.
That's quite a few methodologies.
It is. And the book helpfully explains their different focuses. Some are very system-centric, others business-centric, attacker-centric, or organization-centric. It also makes the distinction between traditional system-focused modeling and the growing need for data-centric threat modeling.
Focusing on the data itself.
Right. And it mentions tools, too, like Microsoft's tool, OWASP Threat Dragon, and even automated approaches.
Okay, so we understand the threats. We have ways to think about them proactively. What about actually fighting back? Detection and mitigation.
Absolutely covered. For each main threat, it lays out detection strategies. For data poisoning, for example, you could look at data-centric methods.
Like validating inputs, looking for anomalies.
Exactly. Filtering, pre-processing, and also model-centric methods, checking the AI model's behavior, its internal workings, using techniques like differential privacy.
And mitigation.
Things like data sanitization, adversarial training, basically teaching the AI to spot and ignore bad data and robust optimization techniques.
Okay. What about for deepfakes? How do you spot those?
Several ways. Digital watermarking is one. Analyzing media files for artifacts or statistical giveaways. Using machine learning, both traditional classifiers and newer deep learning models like CNNs and RNNs. Even using JANs to detect other JANs.
A bit of fighting fire with fire.
Sort of, yeah. And mitigation happens at different levels. Individuals can use detection tools. Companies need AI detection, watermarking, maybe blockchain for verification, strong cybersecurity generally.
And governance.
They have a role in funding R&D, setting legal frameworks, raising public awareness. It's a multi-pronged approach.
Makes sense. And data suppression. How do you detect and resist that?
Detection can involve watching network traffic for filtering signs, using tools like OONI for measuring censorship, being aware of known suppression lists.
And resistance.
Techniques like obfuscation, making traffic look innocent, using VPNs, encrypted protocols like ESNI or ECH. Blockchain can help resist censorship too, as can data-level encryption or zero-knowledge proofs.
Wow, okay. So it definitely covers a lot of ground on the response side, too.
It really does, which, leads us nicely into maybe summing up the pros and cons.
Good idea. Let's start with the pros. What really stands out as valuable in securing your data supply chain?
Well, first, it's just incredibly timely and relevant. It tackles these newer threats that go beyond standard cybersecurity chatter.
And it connects them directly to data governance, which feels crucial. It shows they aren't separate issues.
Absolutely. That connection is key. Another pro is the overview of threat modeling methods. It gives you a good map of the different ways to approach risk identification.
Right. And it doesn't just identify problems, it offers a broad range of detection and mitigation strategies for each threat. Practical starting points.
Definitely. And I think it rightly emphasizes that data governance needs to be proactive and adaptable. These threats aren't static.
That's a really important point. The landscape is constantly shifting. Oh, and the extra resources mentioned are always helpful for digging deeper.
True.
Huh.
Okay, on the flip side, Any cons?
Well, maybe because it covers so much ground, some topics are more introductory than deep dives, wouldn't you say?
That's fair.
Mm.
If you need like a super detailed technical manual on one specific algorithm, this is probably the starting point, not the final word.
Right. And the field itself, especially AI and cyber tactics, moves so fast. Some specific techniques might evolve or become outdated after publication.
That's just the nature of the beast in this area, unfortunately. You always need to stay current.
And the legal disclaimer is worth noting, it's educational, not specific professional advice. You still need experts for implementation.
Standard, but important to remember.
Okay, so summing that up, who is this book really for? Who gets the most value?
I'd say it's ideal for business executives, leaders involved in data strategy, risk management, CIOs, IT directors, folks like that.
Compliance managers, too, probably, dealing with regulations.
Definitely. And certainly data governance professionals themselves, stewards, managers, anyone building or running those frameworks.
And maybe just anyone who needs a solid grounding in these emerging data supply chain threats and how governance fits in.
Exactly. On the other hand, who is it maybe not the best fit for?
Probably someone looking for extremely deep, technical, hands-on implementation guides for specific tools.
You're right. Or maybe someone purely focused on traditional network or system security without much interest in the data layer itself. This book is very much about the data.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's circle back quickly to those real-world examples we talked about earlier, the data poisoning, deepfakes, suppression cases. How do they really drive home the book's message?
They make it concrete, don't they? The AI examples in transport or buildings show the potential for physical disruption from poisoned data.
And the deepfake fraud cases show clear financial harm. It's not theoretical.
Exactly. And the suppression examples like VW or greenwashing show the broader societal and business impacts of manipulating information flow. They just underscore that these are real threats happening now, needing attention.
Which brings us to comparisons. How does this book stack up against other resources out there on security or governance? Is it unique?
I think its unique selling point is that intersection. It specifically connects these emerging data supply chain threats with data governance principles.
Right. You can find tons of books on general cybersecurity, right? Or data governance on its own. Or even AI security specifically.
Sure, but this book seems to build a really valuable bridge between those areas. It offers a more holistic view tailored to how organizations actually operate with data today, that interconnected ecosystem.
So while other books might go deeper on one specific technical aspect,
This one provides that broader context, that framework for understanding how these challenges link together and why a governance strategy needs to account for all of them.
okay, that's a helpful way to position it. All right, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what are the main takeaways? If someone remembers just a couple of things about securing your data supply chain.
I'd say the core is this book is a crucial guide to understanding and tackling these new threats to data integrity and trust. It really hammers home the vital role of strong, adaptable data governance.
And it provides that overview of threat modeling plus detection and mitigation strategies.
Exactly. Gives you the landscape and some tools to navigate it.
And reminding us again who benefits most.
Business leaders, data governance pros, IT and security folks needing to understand data-centric risks.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with, listener. Considering how fast these data-focused threats are evolving, how sophisticated they're becoming, how do organizations like yours need to adapt their data governance, their strategies, even the skills their teams have, not just to defend, but to stay competitive and maintain that all-important public trust?
That's the critical question, isn't it? It's an ongoing challenge.
Indeed. If you want to explore these issues further and get that comprehensive understanding, you can find the book Securing Your Data Supply Chain on Amazon.
And you can also check out more from the author, Dr. Stephen A. Wright, on his website. We'll put the link in the description. It's jerstephenawright.com/author.